In this video, we are going to do an overview of our MISPAC series ultrasonic humidifiers. There are 4 different models in our MISPAC series. The first model being our MISPAC 5, which does about 5 pounds of humidity per hour. Then we have our 15, which does about 15 pounds of humidity per hour. Then we move into our stainless steel units. Our MISPAC 18, which does about 18 pounds of humidity per hour, and our 25, which does about 25 pounds of humidity per hour. When you receive your MISPAC series ultrasonic humidifier, you will receive 3 boxes. You will receive a box with your humidifier module. You will receive a stainless steel shelf with a 1-inch drain, and you will receive your unit mount control box. Included with your humidifier module is a 1/4-inch water line with quick disconnect that features our Y strainer. It is factory required to install this in your unit. When installing your MISPAC series ultrasonic humidifier, there are a few things you want to consider. You want to make sure you mount your humidifier in a centralized location, free of any obstructions directly in front of the humidifier. Also, you want to make sure you have 18 inches of distance above the humidifier to the ceiling, so that way the mist does not impede on the ceiling. When mounting your shelf, there is a 1-inch drain on the bottom of the shelf. You want to make sure to plumb this drain to protect yourself from overflow situations. When mounting your unit mount control panel, you have 10 feet of distance from the control panel harness that plugs up to the humidifier. If you need to go any longer than that, you might need to gauge up and use a junction box. Also included is our Humidifirst digital humidistat. When mounting the digital humidistat, you want to make sure to also mount it in a centralized location, not directly in front of the humidifier. If the mist blows directly onto the humidistat, you will get false readings. After you have installed your shelf and piped the shelf to drain, you are then ready to place your humidifier module onto the shelf. Once you have done that, there are 3 screws on this MISPAC 5, and there are 6 screws on the MISPAC 15 that will need to be removed to gain access to the water pan. Once you have removed the screws, just simply lift up and you have gained access to the water pan. You want to add enough water to cover all 4 of the transducers. After you have filled the water pan up with water to cover all of the transducers, you then want to take the top of the humidifier and place it onto the humidifier's water pan. After you have done that, you want to make sure to replace the screws around the humidifier to secure it. Before plumbing your humidifier, you want to make sure you are using treated water. RO, reverse osmosis, or DI, deionized water. Once you have ensured you are using treated water, you want to make sure you bleed all water lines before plumbing the unit. Bleeding all the water lines ensures there is no debris in your water lines that could get caught in the solenoid inside of the humidifier, causing an overflow situation. After you ensured that, you want to take the quick disconnect supplied by Humidifirst with the Y strainer and install it in your unit. Simply take the end of your water line and plug it into the water supply, making sure to push all the way to make sure the water line is seated properly. After you have done that, you then want to take your incoming water and plug it into this union connection, making sure it sits flush so that there is no loose connection that could cause leaking. After you have done that, you want to take your unit mount control panel and check for any loose connections. Simply open the unit by turning the lock to the unlock position, and the door will swing open. You want to just go through and check all the connections for tightness before you run power to the unit. Once you have ensured there are no loose connections, you can then close the door, put it in the lock position, and then run your sand wall cable to your humidifier. You have 10 feet of distance from the unit mount control panel to the humidifier. When plugging in your sand wall harness, you will note that one of them is a 4-pin connection and the other one is a 5-pin connection. Locate the 4-pin, which is on top, and the 5-pin that is on the bottom. Simply place the connection into the sand wall and tighten it. Once you have done that, you are then ready for power. After you have ensured all the wire connections inside your unit mount control panel are tight, that your sand wall is connected properly, that you have bled all the lines that go to the humidifier module, you are then ready to turn on your humidifier. Be sure to make sure that your water lines are on and not off. Once you turn on the unit mount control panel, you will hear the 24-volt VAC solenoid engage. Once the desired water level is met inside of your MistPack humidifier, the 24-volt solenoid will disengage. You will notice that your humidistat is in the off position. To turn it on, simply locate the power button on the left-hand side of the controller and press it. Once pressed, it will give you a digital readout. The top is the humidity inside of the space. The bottom is of your set point. To raise the set point, simply locate the top arrow and press. It will go up in 0.5 increments. To go down, simply locate the down arrow and press down. Once you have your desired humidity set, the humidifier will turn on and off as needed.
The MistPack humidifier can be incorporated into many unique applications and designs. The 2-inch PVC elbows can be used to port into a chamber or through a wall. The metal discharge slot on our 18 and 25 can also be used to inject mist vapor directly. This is useful in closed chambers, conveyor systems, through-wall designs, and spot humidification.
This unit is equipped with our optional WaterGuard Overflow protection. This option features an audible alarm, the WaterGuard sensor, and the WaterGuard control unit located on the inside of your control panel. For this option, simply take the provided WaterGuard sensor and place it in the shelf. It will set in the shelf, and when an overflow happens, it will cause the audible alarm to trip, disengaging your 24 volts VAC inside the unit. We're now going to demonstrate an overflow situation by placing the sensor in a cup of water. The water causes the sensor to close, tripping the audible alarm. In order to reset the audible alarm, simply turn off the unit and the alarm will be disabled. Turn the unit back on and you have just reset your WaterGuard system. There is another option called the Flood Guard, which works in conjunction with your WaterGuard. The Flood Guard is a solenoid valve that is normally open that runs in the supply side of your water line. Simply what it does is when your WaterGuard trips, turning off your 24 volt circuit, it closes the solenoid, causing no more water to flow through your water line. There are different ways to control your MISPAC series ultrasonic humidifier. In front of us, we have our digital humidistat, which reads the humidity of the room, and you can adjust the set point by the up and down arrows. You can also request dry contact points that are simply points where you can open and close that cause the humidifier to turn on and turn off. We also have a remote probe to a display. The remote probe can be mounted in a place where there is high humidity, where the humidistat can't be placed inside the room. And we also have our HC301. Our HC301 is a programmable logic device that you can hook your BMS or sensors up to and control it remotely. When doing maintenance on your Humidifirst ultrasonic humidifier, you want to always be sure that you have power completely disconnected from the unit. Make sure your switch is turned off and disconnect power from your 120 volt wall outlet, ensuring no damage can occur. When doing maintenance, be sure to disconnect both top and bottom sand wall connections, ensuring that there is no power running to the unit. Then simply remove the set screws on the outside of the humidifier to gain access to your water pan. To clean your water pan, you want to make sure that you don't use any finishing agents in your cleaner. Simply use a diluted bleach and wipe out the unit. Do not scrape or scratch at the transducers, because you will ruin the transducer crystallized disc. Also be sure to clean your fan filter by simply removing it off the back and rinsing it with water, making sure it is clean and doesn't restrict airflow. To gain access to your unit mount control panel, ensure power is turned off and your 120 volt plug is unplugged. And simply locate the latch, turn it to the open position, and the door will open. You can locate the Humidifirst address and phone number on the door along with the unit's serial number. Here is the wiring diagram designated for each specific unit. Here is your transformer that transforms your incoming 120 power. Here is your R1 relay, which controls your low water safety. Here is your R3, which controls your transducer's operation. Here is your incoming 120 volt power. Here is your F1, which is the fuse for your incoming power. F2 is your fuse for your internal 120. F3 is your 48 volt fuse for your transducer circuit. F4 is your 24 volt fuse for the solenoid and float switch. 21, 22, 23, and 24 are the terminals for your digital humidistat or dry contact points. 1 through 9 is the control harness or Sanwa cable that goes from your control panel to your humidifier. R2 is your timer for the float switch and solenoid to function properly. We are now going to check your surge arresters. You have two surge arresters on this unit at 21, 22, and 1 and 2. Surge arresters work the exact opposite of a fuse. If you tone across it and don't get continuity, then it's good. If you tone across it and get continuity, it is bad. To check the fuse, simply remove the fuse by taking a Tech screwdriver or a small screwdriver with a small tip, place it in the slot directly above the surge arrestor, push it in, and it will dislodge the surge arrestor. You'll have to do it one for each side. And the surge arrestor will come out. To check for the continuity of this surge arrestor, simply take one prong on each one to make sure you don't get continuity across it. If you are getting continuity across it, you have a bad surge arrestor, and you're going to want to make sure to check your fuse. If you keep replacing a fuse with a bad surge arrestor, the fuse will keep blowing. To replace the surge arrestor, simply take it, place it in the two holes, take your Tech screwdriver, and push in. You have just replaced your surge arrestor. After making sure all of the fuses and surge arresters are working properly, we're then going to check our voltage across our transformer. In order to do that, we'll take our voltmeter and turn it to measure voltage, AC, not DC, and then we're going to measure across. We'll find our incoming 120 volts and measure across, putting one side on our 120 and the other side on the neutral. For our secondary side, we'll measure across our 48 volts and our neutral to make sure we're getting proper power. Note, you cannot tone to ground in order to measure proper voltage. You cannot tone to ground to measure proper voltage. You must locate the secondary neutral on the secondary side of the transformer. Once we have measured all power on the incoming and secondary side, we'll then want to move to our fuses. F1 is the incoming 120 volts from our electrical outlet. So in order to tone across, we'll go from the transformer to the top of our 120 right here, and then we'll go to the bottom. Now we'll go to our F2, which is our internal 120 volt circuit, and measure top and bottom. Now for F3 and F4, we'll go to the secondary side of our transformer, as F3 is our 48 volts. Now we'll go to our F4, which is our internal 24 volts. After ensuring all those measure properly, we're then going to check our relays. We are now going to check our relays. We're going to locate our R1 and our R3 relay. R1 controls our low water safety and is also controlled by our humidistat. If our humidistat is not in the on position, R1 will not be lit. If not enough water is in the water pan, R1 will not be lit. R3 controls our transducers and is directly wired to R1. So, if R1 is not lit, R3 will not light either. If our humidistat is in the off position, both R1 and R3 will turn off. When R3 is lit, our unit will be calling for humidity, meaning our unit will be in the on position. To check to see if all of your transducers are working properly, simply remove the set screws, lift up the lid, and make sure all of your transducers are firing. The transducers are working properly if you see a 1 to 2 inch fountain over each of the transducers. If you don't see any fountain over the transducer, you probably have a bad transducer. Now we're going to show you how to change a transducer. First, ensure the unit is powered off. Remove both sandwalk connections. Take the set screws out of the unit. Drain the water and flip the unit upside down. There are 4 screws located on the bottom of the unit. We're simply going to remove the screws. Be sure not to lose the washer on each one. Now, you're going to want to pull the unit open. Now, you will notice each of the transducer has the transducer and the print plate. When ordering new transducers, you'll get a new transducer and print plate. Be sure to change both the transducer and the print plate. If you just change the transducer and not the plate, you then can cause premature failure. So, simply back the screws out of each one. Remove the daisy chain harness, and the transducer and circuit board will come right off. Be sure to save the screws, as you will need them. You can then toss your old transducer kit. Then to replace, you'll simply take your new one and put them back in the same place. The long screws are used for the transducer. The short screws are used for the print plate. When tightening them down, be sure not to use too much force. We recommend on our drills to use a number 4. Now be sure to replace the daisy chain. The blue wire will go towards the right. The green wire will go on the left. The transducer wires will go in the same way. The blue on the right, the yellow on the left. To reinstall the bottom plate, simply align the sandwalk connection with the hole. Put the screw back on and replace the feet. Our two larger versions of our MISPAC series are our stainless steel units, our MISPAC 18 and our MISPAC 25. The noticeable difference is the stainless steel and the larger control panel. With the larger size, they have more of a capacity. The 18 does about 18 pounds per hour, and the 25 does about 25 pounds per hour. Both are shipped with a shelf, which both have 1-inch drains on the bottom of the shelf, which factory requires they be piped to drain to ensure safety during overflow situations. All are shipped with our quick disconnect Y strainer, which we recommend be installed. The main difference between this unit and the smaller MISPAC 5 and 15 is the nozzle is a different shape and size, and also there are 3 sandwalk connections instead of 2. When installing the unit, you want to be sure to locate it in a centralized location, making sure it is not directly blowing on any sort of obstructions that might be directly in front of the humidifier. You want to also make sure you mount it 18 inches from the ceiling, so that way no mist impedes on the ceiling. Also, you'll take your Y strainer quick disconnect supplied by Humidifirst and plug it into the water supply. You'll simply push and make sure it is seated properly. You'll then want to take the top of the humidifier off and fill it up with water. You want to make sure to cover all of the transducers inside the water pan. Once you have filled the water pan filled with water and covered all of the transducers, you're then going to want to place the top of the unit back onto the water pan. You'll then want to make sure your incoming water line has been bled to ensure that there are no obstructions in the water line that could get caught in the solenoid valve, causing an overflow. Simply take your incoming water and hook it directly into the union. Add pressure and it will slide right in. Once you have ensured that the water line has been hooked up and properly bled, you're then going to want to locate your SandWall connection. Your SandWall harness is 10 feet in length, and it features one 4-pin, which is going to go to the top, and two, a 4-pin and a 5-pin bottom connection. Simply take the single 4-pin connection and place it in the top, securing it. And then your 4-pin connection is going to go on the left, and your 5-pin on the right. Be sure to tighten each connection. Once you have done this, then you are ready to plug your control panel into the wall with the supplied 120 volt power plug. Before plugging in your 120 volt power plug, you're going to want to open the unit and check for any loose connections. Open it up and simply go in and pull on any loose to try and find any loose connection points. After verifying that all points are tight, close the unit and lock the door. You are now ready for power. We're now going to go over some of the key features of our larger 18 and 25 control panel. When you open up the control panel, you will see that there is a much larger transformer. There is an internal cooling fan that engages when the transducers come on. You will also see the R4 or Ultra Pulse relay, which comes standard on the 18 and 25 and can be purchased as an option on the 5 and 15. The Ultra Pulse, which is labeled R4, is a duty cycle timer. It is set to different on and off delays. So right now it is on 4 seconds on, 2 seconds off, meaning the transducers will fire for 4 seconds and then turn off for 2. You can change this to any as follows by just simply flipping the switches.
So now we just changed it from 4 seconds to 8 seconds. So now it will remain 8 seconds on, 2 seconds off. We're now going to go over an overview of the internal circuitry. Right here is the F1 fuse. F1 is for your incoming power. F2 is going to be for your internal 120. F3 is going to be for your 48 volts that control your transducers. F4 is going to be your 24 volts that control your solenoid valve and float switch. Here is your transformer. It's wired at the 120 volts primary side and your secondary side 24 and 48 volts. Located right here is your R1 relay. R1 controls your low water safety, water level maintenance, and can be turned on and off via your humidistat. R2 is a time delay relay for your solenoid and float switch. R3 is a relay that controls your transducers. R4 is the time delay relay that says how long your transducers will stay on and off. Right here, 1 through 11, is going to be your sandwalk control harness. 21 through 24 is going to be your humidistat or dry contact points. Right here, your ground, hot, and neutral are going to be for your incoming power. The 1825 features a drain on the back of the unit. When shipped, the drain comes plugged, but we also include a John Guest fitting with a 3/8 inch tube out of the fitting. This is an on-off fitting that can be plumbed into the back of the unit to allow ease of access to drain the unit when performing maintenance. We're now going to show you how to change the transducer on a MISPEC 1825. Make sure power is turned off to the unit. Once power is turned off, then remove the sandwall harnesses. Once the sandwall harness is removed, take off the top to gain access to the water pan. Now, simply get a drill and back out each of the 8 screws located around the water pan. Once those screws have been taken out, simply flip over the unit and take off the bottom pan. Notice you will need a 5/16 socket to take off each of the number 6 kept nuts that secure the transducer and print plate. So simply back off the number 6 kept nuts, remove the daisy chain connection, and remove the transducer. Be sure not to discard of the O-ring and O-ring base. When changing the transducer, be sure to change the transducer and the print plate because they are a kit. If you change just the transducer and not the print plate, you may cause premature failure. Now to reinstall, simply place them all back together and seat them on the hole. Replace the number 6 kept nuts. Now be sure when tightening down to not over tighten the PEMs because you could break the PEMs. We recommend tightening them down at our number 4 setting. Now to replace the wires, you're going to replace the blue on the out 2 and the yellow on the out 1. The blue daisy chain you're going to put on the right side and the green one on the left side. Be sure to make sure that the connections are tight and put on properly. Once you have done that, you are then ready to place the bottom pan back to the water pan. Simply take the bottom pan, line up the holes, and make sure the drain goes through the drain hole first. By setting it this way forward, you ensure that the drain sticks out of the hole and is seated properly. Then simply line up the unit and go back and tighten up all of the 8 connection points. And then you have successfully changed your transducer.
This concludes the training video on the MISPAC series Ultrasonic Humidifier. For further support, you can contact us at 561-752-1936 or email us at humidifirst@humidifirst.com. For troubleshooting a specific unit, be sure to be on site with a voltmeter and the serial number of the unit in question. Thank you.